What if the monster under your bed was never hunting you, but waiting for you to come home? They called it madness when she said the forest could whisper, but the trees always whispered in Stare Vodi, in the hush between dreams, in the flicker of candlelight, and in the language of crows tapping at windows before dawn. Lada Velesova, age 30, folklorist, skeptic, and sleep-deprived, had come home. After her breakdown, she told the doctors it was just stress, but stress doesn't curl shadows into hands or braid your dreams with voices you've never heard, in languages you've never learned. Lada returned to Stare Vodi to finish her mother's research, or so she told herself. But this wasn't a return. It was a summoning. The village hadn't changed. The air still tasted of pine and prayers. Lanterns still swayed with windless grace. And the forest? The forest was still waiting. In her childhood home, buried under a false floorboard, she found a leather-bound journal, a family heirloom filled with symbols, warnings, and one name written again and again in a spiral of ink, Kiki-Mara. She comes not to steal breath, but to return the ones you've lost. That night, the dreams began. Not dreams exactly, visitations. She'd wake in the same position each time, frozen, breath caught, unable to scream. At the foot of her bed stood a woman made of mist and moonlight, her eyes hollow as memory, hair flowing like ink in water. Kiki-Mara, not a demon, not a myth, not anymore. Every night, Lada was pulled from her bed and taken to a strange place she later called Dom Noci, the night house. Behind each door was a memory she had tried to forget. The first room, she heard her mother screaming behind a closed door. The next, she saw herself as a little girl, hiding in a closet while heavy footsteps walked through the house. Each room felt both real and dreamlike, like a puzzle made of feelings and memories. Dim candles lit the way, and a red thread, tied by Kiki-Mara, was strung between doorknobs and mirrors. Lada tried to run from it all, but you can't run from what's hiding inside you.
She's not a curse,
whispered the wind through the trees.
She's guarding the pain you refused to feel.
In the real world, things got stranger. Her coffee steamed into weird shapes. Her reflection blinked when she didn't. The villagers started to avoid her, whispering about the return of the Vela's blood and an old promise being reopened. But Lada wasn't scared. She was starting to understand. Memories came back, a red thread she wore on her wrist as a kid. How her mum went quiet whenever she asked about her dreams. An old charm in a drawer, carved with a moon and two hollow eyes. She realized this wasn't just some old story. It was a family secret, a deal made long ago that hadn't ended, just been forgotten. And now Kiki-Mara was back, not to hurt her, but to finish what had begun. To truly heal, the forest seemed to say, you have to go back through the fire you once ran from. So Lada stopped fighting it. Her next dream took her to a room made of ash, where memories fell like snow. She saw her younger self trying to explain the voices she heard and being told to stay silent. In a cracked mirror, she saw herself and Kiki-Mara looking back at her. That night, Lada whispered,
What do you want from me?
And the answer didn't come in words, but in a feeling, wholeness. Kiki-Mara wasn't a monster. She was sadness. She was fear. She was all the pain Lada had tried to push away for years, and in naming that pain, in looking it in the eye, she began to change, not into someone new, but into who she was always meant to be. To get rid of her would mean getting rid of part of herself. So Lada kept going. She walked into a room made of roots, the floor beating like a heart. In the middle stood Kiki-Mara, no longer scary, but tall, calm, and almost mother-like. Her skin looked like tree bark. Fog curled around her shoulders. Her eyes glowed gently. She held out her hand, not to fight, but to help. And Lada finally reached back. In the stillness that followed, the night house seemed to breathe with her. The walls didn't vanish, but they softened, as if even memory could forgive. The final room was a memory so deep, Lada had convinced herself it never happened. Her mother's funeral. No tears, no goodbye, just cold silence, and a village pretending everything was okay.
She gave her pain to me,
Kiki-Mara said softly.
so you wouldn't have to carry it. But now, you're ready.
Lada dropped to her knees. She cried, she screamed, and then she breathed. When she woke up, it was morning. No scary dreams, no frozen fear, just a single red thread on her pillow. And a quiet, strong feeling in her heart. Peace. She stepped outside into the soft light of her village. The forest didn't feel heavy anymore. The wind didn't whisper warnings. It whispered, "Welcome." Some stories aren't meant to be avoided. They're meant to be walked through, quietly, painfully, bravely, step by step. Because the shadow you run from often holds the part of you you didn't know you were missing. Lada thought she was being haunted, but she wasn't. She was being called back. Not to the past, but to the part of herself she buried to survive. We all do it in different ways. We silence the screams, ignore the dreams, and carry on. Until one day, something whispers. Not to scare you, but to wake you. A name. A memory. A feeling you can't explain. And that's when the journey begins. Sometimes healing doesn't come from running toward the light. Sometimes it comes from sitting in the dark long enough to realize you're not broken, just unfinished. The monster was never the enemy. It was the message. It was the mirror. It was the hand reaching back through time, waiting for yours. And healing begins where the nightmare ends, and where you finally choose to stay with yourself. That's not the end. That's the beginning.